from my point of view, a visual voice is based off of what your inspirations are. So you can also do this exercise. You don't have to draw this, you don't have to draw your brain and segments like I did, but this was one thing that I did for myself. So this is my head, and this is my inspiration in the center. What's all these segments that I have in order to create this huge world of inspiration that I have that I can pour into my creativity? So as you can see, there are dogs, there are people, there is something that I'm passionate about. Also, money is very important for me because money is some sort of driven for me to keep on going with what I like to do. So I'm not shy from talking about financials and money as an artist. I am fascinated by people I encountered on the subway, for example. So I have to commute to teach, and my commute sometimes takes 3 hours, like 1 hour and a half and 1 hour and a half back, which is a very long time to be on a subway. So what I started doing is drawing people on the subway. So I always carry a very, very small sketchbook. If you ever want to do a drawing on location, I do not recommend bring any big sketchbook like this one, because what happened is when you try to draw, you have to like pull out. It's going to be so huge. Everyone is going to be like, what are you drawing? So my go-to size of my sketchbook that I always carry wherever I go, you will see more, is about very small, about size of my hand. So it's really handy, it's not a big deal because the scale also matters. Is that because it's so small, it feels very casual. Because if you ever feel like when you have a really big sketchbook and then you open it up to make a masterpiece, right? And then you realize this huge blank really scares you and you're just kind of paralyzed. But I think that what small sketchbook does is that it feels very friendly. You can just doodle out anyway. So I recommend having a very small sketchbook. But anywho, so I started drawing a bunch of people for a long time. And it really eventually helped me to build up a confidence of how I draw people. Anyway, so long story short, this is a map of Manhattan. Consists of all the people I saw on a subway. So, I mean, obviously, people doesn't look like this exactly, but I think I kind of put these specific people I saw in a specific location and create a map out of it. So that's what I've been doing. Doodle or drawing or sketchbook is a platform for you to not to be perfect, if that makes any sense. Go with the flow. No one's gonna judge you. So I would recommend having a sketchbook as your world of freedom, and just you pour into anything that you might shy from. I don't know what it is like over there, but in here over the summer, people are just dying for sun. So we go to the park and we just try to be naked as much as possible and get sun. I think it's really fascinating when you start thinking about and looking at different people. Here is another thing about New York subway. I don't know if you ever been to New York, but if you haven't, this is one warning alert that I want you to be prepared for. The first panel, yes, that does happen. Second panel, there's always man or women spreader, The third one is, it's like we are allowed to be free. It's okay, But I think that's something that possibly can happen during the summer. And the fourth one is, it's hard for you to tell, but I'm really short. So that's one thing that I always run into. So one quick advice. This is what I do. when I first work on a project or approach to a project. So the first draft of anything is shit. So number one, I do the obvious. So I follow the brief, right, the clients gave me, and then I do the opposite, right? So I have one idea and I have a second idea that are very different from one another. And then I create a third one that are sort of in between these two. Number two, go commando. So I'm sure everyone knows what commando means. So I'm just gonna let you decide what that means and what you're supposed to do with that. Number three is fail harder. You just lay out all the cards, right? Not afraid to make mistakes. And then you can sort of edit things out. So that's how I see it when I meant fail harder. Number four, craft the shit out of it. Number five, think bigger than the brief. I know this is a little more about business side as an illustrator, but find the right market for yourself. There's a job for everyone, meaning me personally is an illustrator, and there are different markets for an illustrator as well. But one of the markets that I thought that I really have to do or go in was an editorial illustration. But I didn't get a lot of job from editorial illustrations in the beginning of my career. So I was very disappointed. But I realized editorial illustration wasn't the only thing that I can do as an illustrator. So that's what I like to talk about. If you are someone who loves to draw or wants to become an illustrator, I think there's so many different avenues that you can take.